Welcome to episode 27 of the Bulls Recap Podcast. I'm Joe Cowley of the Chicago Sun-Times. You can obviously read me in the Chicago Sun-Times sports section. If I'm in any other section, things went horribly wrong. Or you could follow me on X, Twitter, whatever you want to call it, at jcowleyhoops. Follow at your own discretion. It's not a fun follow sometimes. So look, in this business, beats are you're given a beat as a sports writer, and it's very territorial, especially early on. When you know someone has arrived is when you could take off your beat and this person could jump in for you and you're sleeping well at night. You're not stressed. You're not worrying about, I got to go read what he or she wrote. And so it's been exciting for me to watch my next guest climb, rise, whatever you want to call it. It's been great. Formerly of the Sun-Times, now of Front Office Sports, Annie Costabile. I always want to add extra vowels to your last name and make it sound very Italian. Costabelli or Costabella or whatever.
Costabile.
There you go. Awesome catching up with you. So, first of all, how is the new gig since you have left the Sun-Times and have moved from Chicago to the Big Apple?
Can we set the record straight here for a second?
Yes.
I was not run out of town.
I was going to get to that.
Oh, okay. We'll get
No.
Let's
get to it. No, get to it now because
let me check you all.
Yes.
Let's do some checking. Okay. Let's do some fact checking. Was not run out of town. I love a challenge. I loved covering the sky. Was not fired. I loved the Chicago Sun-Times and loved working for that sports department. It was a very difficult decision to leave. I took on a new challenge because, as you know, sometimes you reach a point in your career where you got to spread your wings a little bit. The birds got to leave the nest. Annie was just ready to jump out of the Chicago nest and test out New York City, see if she could really hang with the big dogs. I think it's turning out well. I think in the first month, it's feeling like I could hang with the big dogs a little bit. We'll see. Time will tell, but that's how I feel right out the gate.
I hated to see you go personally and probably selfishly because, first of all, I thought you were an awesome I think you're one of the best WNBA writers in the country. You've become
Thank you.
And did it quickly. So put that out there right now. Secondly, selfishly, I loved having you as part of the team because, like I said, I slept well at night. And here's the thing, like when I would come back from the beat after you filled in for me, you don't even understand how many people would come up to me from the Bulls and be like, Annie's really good. Annie asks really good questions, blah, blah, blah. And I was just like, awesome. So I hated seeing you go. No, you did. You've gotten really good and carved out a nice niche for you. So I hated to see you go.
Thank you.
So
I hated to leave. I was sad.
I know you did. I know how much the Sun-Times meant to you. So so earlier this week, Joe's just doing his usual Joe Twitter stuff. I watched the Fever Sky game. I was one of the 2.7 million that decided to tune in and watch it. To me, it is a can't miss, not only from a basketball standpoint, the basketball that's being played, but the storylines. I mean, and that's why I think the NBA works because of the storylines and stuff. So afterwards, obviously I am Team Caitlin. I don't think you can. I said, I tweeted last year, she should be MVP of the league a first month into the season, just because of when you look at the name of the award, most valuable, I think she's been the most valuable in the league. Forget stats, forget numbers, forget what she did for Indiana and how far she took them. But then I was told by somebody who's claimed to cover the sky, and it's somebody from CHGO, and I love the people at CHGO, so I'm not going to get into a name calling thing. But I was basically told, shut up and dribble. Shut up and write. This is not your lane. And I was like, it really struck me wrong because I'm watching it because of the basketball. I watch a lot of basketball. I love basketball. And to me, the WNBA wants a caveman like me who never took the league serious until Caitlin Clark arrived. And you actually got to see the talent level and the storylines. So am I wrong for having some sort of feeling? Because this whole thing has exploded nationwide, whether it's Ryan Clark and the stuff going on with RG3 and the name calling. I mean, this this is bigger than just what that game was over the weekend.
Right, 100%. First of all, I think I gotta set this up a little bit and defend you or speak to your character. Before I actually knew you, I wasn't intimidated, but there was an aspect to you that I was like, "Oh, I don't know this guy. He's got really hot takes." Like, it was, I guess intimidated maybe is the right word, because I saw your fiery takes, I saw how opinionated you were, and I was like, "Man, he doesn't back down." And I think when you get to know a person like you, and I am lucky enough to know you on a personal level, like, you've got a great heart, and you are one of the best people I've worked with, and that's non-negotiable. And a lot of people don't see that, don't understand that. So people on social media, what I've learned obviously is they see a person's take, not even just you, and they
Right.
jump to conclusions about that person's character, about who that person is, yada, yada, yada. And so in this situation, when we're talking about the Indiana Fever, the Chicago Sky, Angel Reese, Caitlin Clark, a lot of people hear people's takes and they immediately jump to these conclusions about who that person is and where they must have came
Right.
from and what their thoughts on the world are. And the thing is, sometimes some people, again, like yourself, who don't have like a history of covering the league, whose background is not in WNBA history, sometimes these people are just showing up to talk about the basketball, to talk about, being a fan, like you said, you are, of Caitlin Clark and
Right.
her impact on the game. And I think the protective quality that people have over the WNBA space, rightfully so. This league has been ignored since its inception up until now. And so there are a lot of people who are extremely defensive over it, extremely protective over it. The thing I want to reiterate or explain, as someone who's covered multiple leagues and has covered, again, the NBA, is that when a sport uh reaches a level that the WNBA is reaching at this point, the doors open to all kinds of takes and
Yes.
all kinds of opinions, and you're never going to be able to check everybody. You just aren't. And so it's interesting to see the way that this series between, again, the Indiana Fever and the Chicago Sky has turned into an opportunity for people to try it and get, like, to check people. It's like sometimes people are just talking about the basketball, and that's okay. It's okay to talk about women's sports and talk about the sport. And I think that's what we need to get a little bit more comfortable doing.
And that, I mean, that's a great point. And that to me kind of, because really all I cared about is the basketball part of it. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I just think Caitlin Clark is playing the game at a level that I'm more comfortable watching because I'm more used to that level, whether it's changing the geometry of the court because of her ability to stretch the floor. But to me, it's the passing. I mean, I grew up
Mm-hmm.
with Magic, and I grew up with guys like that, where you were just just love that aspect of her. To me, that's the aspect that I love watching, because I haven't seen that. And again, maybe it's I didn't put the time in, or I've covered girls high school basketball back in the day when I
Mm-hmm.
was in Cleveland. I covered girls preps, and there were some fantastic players. One girl went to Ohio State, and a good buddy of mine, Dwayne Sheldon, his daughter JC Sheldon,
Mm-hmm.
phenomenal basketball player. I grew up with Dwayne, and to see what JC's become, and obviously she was with Dallas and then traded to Connecticut.
Yeah, gonna be a key for Connecticut through this
Yeah.
very, very suspect era that they're in right now.
Right, right. And it's funny because I talked to Dwayne a lot more about the league now that he has a better feeling of the league. And the one thing that I don't think a lot of people know, especially white males my age, people want Gen X, whatever you want to label me, that's what I am, and I'm not going to apologize for that, is there's a lot going on in the league that is more than just basketball.
Totally.
And whether it's the old guard against this new guard of players, whether it's agents telling, especially the last couple of years, telling these girls, look, the idea that this big TV deal is coming up and you're an attractive female, that bodes well for everybody. And I don't think people in the WNBA are comfortable talking about all the different layers of this thing.
Yeah, there's so many layers. And I think that's what's getting lost on some of the new voices that are coming in and covering this league is that, again, this league was founded by women, which inherently makes it political because for however long women were told you're not allowed to play sports. So,
Right,
okay,
right.
you've got that. But then you've got it's predominantly Black women, queer women. And so this is a statement in its own right. And because these women, again, from the onset had so many hurdles, they've always been at the forefront of human rights issues. Everything that they've done that's always been like the part of the discussion. They've never been able to just play basketball. I think Sue Bird had a quote in the last few years, and she said maybe on her podcast that they've never just been able to play basketball because, again, this league has existed in a political ecosystem because of who is playing. And so everyone who's covered this league or followed this league for, more than the last recent 2 to 3 years knows that, I think, about the league, and that's where some of this protection comes in. But in that same vein, I think, and this is just my opinion, for media members to contribute to the evolution of the league, we have to talk about the storylines, the basketball, the rivalries. Indiana and Chicago did not come up overnight because of Angel and Caitlin. And saying so and talking about the history between these teams, it should not be taboo. It, it's crazy to me that it's become this taboo topic. I just pulled up, a friend of mine tweeted out the marketing emails that the Sky used to send out ahead of this matchup. They called the Fever their arch nemesis. This was an email from like 2012. So
Okay.
anybody that thinks we're pushing storylines or media members are pushing storylines about a rivalry in just because of Angel and Caitlin, you yourself don't know the history of the league. And that's okay. We're not here to point fingers. We're just here to tell stories and
Right,
to
right.
advance this story. And the last thing I'll say about it is, again, Angel and Caitlin did not define this rivalry, but the fact that they got drafted to the two franchises that they got drafted to was a blessing to this league because of the storylines that are going to develop out of it. Now, yes, there is a completely toxic, awful racial aspect to that, and we should not shy away from that.
Right.
Nobody deserves to be spoken to or to endure the allegations that are out there that Angel Reese has been on the receiving end of, allegedly. Okay, nobody. And I do not stand for that shit. But I also think talking about basketball is okay to do in the WNBA as well.
So and that's a great point because to me the draw is the basketball, and
Hmm.
I find the storylines fantastic, but I just don't know the depth of them because
Right.
I'm just kind of jumping on this thing lately. Yeah, you brought up a good point of queer versus straight and black versus white. Angel Reese, it would seem to me, is there? I mean, you got a chance to know her. Is there a pushback on her of queer versus straight because she's very out with her? This is who I am, and she doesn't care if she's seen courtside with this guy or this guy. Has she gone through a pushback of her own from an old guard that's saying, "This is not about color. This is kind of about your sexuality and what you're putting out there." Because to me, that's who knows what kind of space that puts her in.
I don't know if I totally followed your question because I don't think there's any sense of queer versus straight or like this
Okay.
versus that at all from the players. Like, I have never seen or felt that in any space or place that I've been in the league. I think truly, like, covering this league, there's been a overwhelming sense of like, you could show up exactly as who you are, and that maybe
Welcome to the
wasn't
party. Yeah.
always the
Okay.
history, like that maybe
Yeah.
wasn't always the WNBA's story. And again, this might just be my observation from the outside, but like, truly covering this league is like is like a free for all in terms of just be yourself. And I think that's
Gotcha.
what's frustrating for the players as well, because there's certain storylines that come out that are like, oh, this player is too aggressive or this player is too that. And it's like, no, they just want to play. Like
Right.
even okay, take for example the play between Caitlyn and Angel, the take foul. It's like I saw people so pissed at Angel's response to Caitlyn fouling her that hard. If somebody fouled me like that in a basketball game, if you think I am not standing up and charging after them, you're crazy.
Right.
Angel is a competitor. They're getting dragged in this game. If you think a competitor is not going to stand up and like, you're out of your mind. And that's what I am advocating for, is like women should be able to show up and compete and be braggadocious and loud and everything that they are, because that's all these players want, is to just freaking play and to be able to be who they are. I don't
So
know if that answered your question.
no, it does, because there's just a lot that I think people like myself that are jumping into this thing the last couple of years because of, whether it was because of what we saw in college when with Caitlin Clark and have kind of just followed her, or to me the only color that should matter to the WNBA is green. That's my take on everything. That's the only color that should matter to them, because this is a league that has had to be subsidized. And and you and I have talked about this. Jerry Reinsdorf, the one thing I will say, I will originally credit Jerry Reinsdorf for, he was not bullied into taking a WNBA team.
Yeah, he
And
was like, no. He was like,
he was
where's the
like,
money at?
I'm not doing it because I'm about money and green and I don't see this working. And now he might be regretting this decision and when this TV deal comes through and as this thing continues to kind of grow, because I think it could be something special. You're not drawing 2.7 million just on the old guard that was watching the WNBA. You're getting
No.
2.7 million because people like me are interested now and jumping in on this thing and going, "Whoa, this. I came here for the basketball and I've been treated to something a bit more." And so I think that's fantastic. How do you think this works out with the TV deal and kind of where this league can go the next, say, 3 to 4 years, especially with some of the players coming up, whether it's Juju or Silas Swords or whoever it's going to be in college right now, that's kind of the name to watch. It seems like and now Paige is in the league. Where do you think this thing could go? And especially money wise, do you think it's ever going to kind of get off the nursing of the NWA and kind of stand alone?
Yeah, I think absolutely this is going to stand alone. And I think, to your point, the stars that are coming up behind the Caitlyn and the Angels of the WNBA now are going to help solidify that. I mean, Juju is again another star
Right.
whose power extends beyond just her game. People love this player. They've connected to this player. And the reason that happens, okay, is in my opinion, two things. Of course, it's the ability. If you look at Caitlyn, of course she has this talent that is indescribable, and she's on a level in some people's minds that is entirely of its own. And I would agree, she's doing things that have never been done before. Everyone talks about her shooting, but to your point, it's her passing too.
Yeah.
But then beyond that, it's the way that these companies and brands and people have gotten behind her, invested in her, the partnerships that help put her name out, right? Like, there's the thing I have a hard time wrapping my mind around or agreeing with is the idea that you're going to tell me that if social media didn't exist, that Diana Taurasi wouldn't be the biggest fucking thing in the world. I mean, she already is. And it's
Right.
like she did it with half the eyes on her. Candace Parker, Sue Bird, like, these are some of the most entertaining, not even just basketball wise, but like on a personal level, relatable, like people you aspire to be like, people you want to be friends with. That's what makes a thing grow and develop. And so, again, circling back, yes, I think this league is absolutely going to be able to stand on its own because it's filled with players that have stories that are relatable, that connect and drive people in. And as much as people want to say, okay, Caitlyn's at the center of it, and I think that's fair, you've got to talk about all the people that are tuning in to watch Angel because of everything she brings, and her personality, and her style, her sweat, like all these things that make Angel more than an athlete is bringing in new fans as well. Again, Caitlyn's on a level of her own. I
Right.
will not shy away from that, but there's so many players who are contributing to the direction that the league is heading in.
So is it fair for me to ask, are they contributing or are they getting on board because of Caitlin's gravitational pull and understanding, hey, I've got a path here too. But the pull is here. I mean, is that, you know what I'm saying? I mean,
Not exactly. Like you mean like they're eating off of Caitlin's plate? Like, what do you mean?
yeah, are they eating off Caitlin's plate or are they, do they have enough standalone stuff, whether it's their social media or whatever it is, that they are also a draw too? You know what I'm saying? Because
I
I just don't
truly,
know these kind of things.
yeah, I truly believe in myself. I also love that we could have this discussion. I think people need to have a little bit more of an open mind about, like, hey,
Absolutely.
just because I don't agree with Joe doesn't mean I hate Joe, or, like, you know what I'm saying? Even the way we're talking through these concepts, it's like we could have constructive discussion about these concepts. So, anyways, to your point, I I'm not like a bullshitter. I really say exactly what I mean, and I
Right.
truly believe that separate plates. Caitlin's plate is stands alone. Okay, it's a plate that stands alone. But the idea that other players are eating off of hers, they may be benefiting, but their plate is separate and is attracting uh other fans,
Right.
eyes in their own right. I truly believe that in my soul. The idea that 2.7 million tuned in for the Indiana Fever and the Chicago Sky, and it's all because of Caitlin, is a little bit lazy. Like, right? I feel like that's we gotta notice that, right? Like,
Right.
Angel's not making the money she's making because of Caitlyn. Like, Angel is an identity and an individual and a business in her own right. That's something we got to talk about with Angel. Is like, that woman is a business, literally. Like, she's got hands in every single pool. So I don't know. I think separate plates. That's my take.
Good. And again, I'm going to ask questions about things I don't know what I don't know. And I don't pretend to, if there's something I'm not comfortable with or don't know, I'm going to ask the right people. And that's why I wanted to have you on because my perception
Yeah.
might not be reality in this. So why not ask somebody who's kind of been behind the lines? And that's one of the reasons I'm not afraid to have an uncomfortable conversation that some people might
Yeah.
find uncomfortable. So, um, one other thing.
Yeah.
So, you know Angel a little bit more, obviously, from when she first came in the league and stuff.
Hmm.
She's being interviewed, and I got to see a cut of the interview. And here's my problem with the WNBA has to figure out real quick.
Yeah.
Did you see the press conference yesterday? I believe it
I
was.
saw I saw clips of it, yes.
Yeah, the PR staff cannot protect these women from regular questions that every beat writer asks any professional athlete, whether it's the NFL, Major League Baseball, or the NBA, without even flinching. Like if I was asked a question that was asked of Angel, which to me was 100% fair and on brand, and anyone from the Bulls public relations department or when I was covering the White Sox would interfere like that, there would be yelling live during the press conference. Would not happen. And I don't understand why the WNBA doesn't realize that you're in the big leagues now. And when
Yeah.
you're in the big leagues now, you have to be held to that kind of standard. And there are very few questions that should be out of bounds obviously there's questions that can be out of
Oh,
bounds. But
right.
you know what I'm saying?
Mhm. Yeah.
I was not I didn't understand, and I don't know the PR person for this guy. I didn't understand why you'd interfere with those questions and for that press conference when just stay out of the way. Do your job, bring the person there, shut up and stay out of the way.
Totally. I'm glad you bring this up, because it's an important conversation, and I have many thoughts on it and many opinions. I'm going to try and summarize. So when it comes to this dynamic, right, it's different with every team. The way that the Sky handled that media availability is not how every single team would handle that media availability. Like, you got to think about the stars in the league. I was having this conversation with a few of my friends who've been covering this league more than 5 years, we'll say. And we all were commenting on, like, again, the stars of the league, Nafisa Collier, Asia Wilson, Brianna Stewart, like, there would be lines of questions, and they would work their way through the lines of questions. It wouldn't get shut down, like, because again, there's an expectation when situations happen that, again, beat reporters have to ask questions, right? The other point to this, though, is that I think is important to talk about is Angel. What Angel and other players are experiencing is extremely taxing. No one's taking away from that. And there are things that I will never be able to understand and won't ever pretend to be able to understand. And so I'm not defending this guy by any means, but I think there's a layer of them thinking that they're doing the right thing by shutting down questions because they feel like they're protecting her. And okay, I acknowledge that. But what they're actually doing is opening her up for more criticism, opening themselves up for more criticism, because as difficult as some of these things are to talk about, if the questions aren't asked, then there's inaccuracies in reporting, which contributes to even more of a toxic cycle, right? So I think that's what they again, I don't know for sure, but I think that's what they feel they're doing, is they're protecting players, they're protecting their franchise. But what they're actually doing is, again, opening Angel up and exposing Angel to more criticism. And the thing is, if they let beat reporters ask the line of questions, it's well within a player's right, a coach's right, to be like, to be short and sweet and be like, next question. If Angel wanted to next question every single person, she could do that. She could do that. But then that opens you up for everybody to write, okay, she answered X, Y, and Z way. So I think there's a mixture of, again, not understanding that when difficult things happen and you are a public facing person and in the limelight to this degree, you are the face of a franchise. There's no hiding from the questions and the opinions and the hot takes. All you can really do is own it, and even if addressing it means saying as little as possible, that could be your truth. But evading the questions or cutting the questions off is not protecting her in the way I think they want it to.
Yeah.
Totally just my opinion.
No. And you've been behind the scenes covering them. And so, I trust your opinion, and I think that your opinion has merit. I would hope, as this league continues to grow and to me continues to be a powerhouse, that the PR staffs, and again, I'm just basing it on what I've heard about the Sky in the last couple of years, whether it's you or Julia Poe talking about it, and the difficulty at times their public relations has of walking that line of what used to be and what is now, and letting that go and understanding, all right, we're in the big leagues now, and these are big league questions, and we have to be comfortable being uncomfortable with them, and our players have to be.
Again, I can attest to the fact I've been in multiple markets. I've covered multiple teams. I've now been at Liberty's practice for multiple weeks here, dealing with their PR on a daily basis. And that standard, that would not happen at every team. That would not happen with every PR staff. Now, the Sky might think they're protecting their players, but the harsh reality is sometimes the best way you could protect your player is by just letting, preparing
let the arrows fly. Just let the arrows fly. Let them learn.
Prepare them for, okay, this is going to be the line of questioning. It's going to suck, but this is we're going to have to deal with it, and then we'll move on.
All right, I can talk WNBA with you, and to me, like we
I know,
said,
I'm like, wait, do we have to go?
there's so many layers of that we could get into, and I guarantee you this: as the summer goes on, I want to have you back on, because I just think this
I
thing
would
is
love
going to
to.
continue to become its own. To me, it's almost got a feel of like, and again, this is just Joe Caveman of back in the day of the like WWE. I don't watch the WWE like I used to, but the storylines that go off of the event is one thing, but the storylines that go off of it, yeah, the NBA's got its things, and guys having the little Twitter spats, whether it's with Stephen A and Durant or whatever it is. But it's the WNBA stuff is so fascinating to me because there's so many more layers than there are to the NBA. And
And
it
that's
definitely, and we have to keep talking about it, and we can't be telling each other shut up and don't talk about it because you weren't there 5 years ago, or you're a white male boomer,
right.
or whatever. Guess what? I have a 13-year-old daughter. The more you're going to see these 10, 11, 12, 13-year-old girls show up to the arena, somebody's paying for them to get in. Whether it's mom or dad, somebody's paying for them to get in. So to me, the WNBA and the WNBA media, the old guard media, should kind of be welcoming everybody in and saying, "Hey, come in, whatever we'll try and explain to you the storylines, but we're not going to tell you kind of like what hockey people like to do. Well, you weren't here, so you're a Johnny come lately. Don't come in now." I don't like that. That set me off.
Yeah, what I'll say to it is like there's a need for nuanced conversation in this space. And if you see a take you disagree with, it's well within your right to say, I disagree with you, F you,
Absolutely.
whatever. Listen, freedom of speech, I support it. You think I'm trash, you think I'm this, you think I'm that, great. You don't know me, but great. You can think that about me. But what I'll say to the people, to the media members who come on and disagree with a take and then want to tell a person all the way about themselves is, if you disagree with my take, write about it, share yours, put
Yes.
yourself in the line of fire, and get your take out there, because guess what, we all come from different backgrounds and different social experiences and different life experiences that shape the way we look at the world. So if my take does not align with yours, well, then there is a space, that means that there's a space for you to share yours. There's a lack, and you should share yours. But I'm not going to tell you you're a terrible person or a hateful person or X, Y, and Z because I disagree with you.
Right.
Now, if you say something
Well,
diabolical,
if you come in with
yeah,
hate, you deserve hate
right,
back.
right, exactly. If you come
Yeah.
in and you say some hateful, racist, homophobic, sexist shit, check you every single day of the week. But if
Right.
you just disagree with my take, then share yours. Share yours.
Yeah.
That's what I think is the thing here.
Let me ask you because you did do a lot of bull stuff. Did you
Yeah.
the the draft
Oh my
lottery night
god. Oh
was
my
such a
god.
kick in the balls to this
Were you
organization.
there? Were you there? Were you
No,
there?
no, 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 no.
Okay.
I was sitting at home laughing. Um, Ryan and I did like an emergency podcast, shortly after. And it
Yeah.
was, if it could go wrong in every direction, it went wrong for this organization. What was your feeling when you saw draft lottery night? They lose the coin toss to Dallas. Dallas gets Cooper Flag, seismic organizational game changer. Forget the Luka trade and all the conspiracy theorists that go with that. But then the other route that the Bulls could have taken of kind of trading Zach LaVine and then, kind of dialing it back and do what San Antonio and Philly did. San Antonio and Philly, 2 and 3, which could have gotten the Bulls Dylan Harper, Ace Bailey, VJ Edgecombe, whatever you want to, whoever you want to slot them in with. They lost on every front possible, as usual.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, I immediately thought of you. I immediately thought of you, and all of the mentions I read over the years of people being like, Joe's such a hater. Joe hates the Bull. Da, 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 da. And I'm like, but was he wrong? point to the moment where he was wrong. Because the other thing that I think I love about a good beat reporter is I have a take that's wrong, that is literally proven wrong, I am not afraid to say it. You know what I'm saying? And so I
100%.
just remember reading so much of your work and you being like, um, I mean, this is what's going to end up happening. They're going to end up, in the play-in, and then their draft pick, like middle tier draft pick, whatever. And it's like that's what happened. And the layer to it that is just like I think so crushing is the coin flip,
Oh,
that you were that close to it.
because you had to have Josh Giddey throw the half court shot in with the Lakers. Otherwise, Cooper Flagg is a Chicago Bull, and people don't understand when they think if we're haters or we're negative towards our team, they don't
Yeah.
understand that when our team that we're covering is doing well, if the Bulls get a Cooper Flagg, do you know what that does to my plate? You don't think I want to see the Bulls succeed? It totally
Right.
changes our beat. I'm tired of
Right.
covering mediocre shit, and I don't think this front office knows how to get out of mediocre shit. So that's what I'm going to
Right.
write.
Right. And it's like, it's so funny to me. I had so many notes from people that are like, the Sky should fire you. The Sky should fire you. I was never employed by the Sky, baby. I was
I
not, the
know.
Sky didn't pay my checks. The Sky never cut a single check for me. So I think it's like the idea that we're haters is so funny, because it's like, no, we just show up and you write what you see, you write what you
Yep.
know. And sometimes what we see and we know is not very pretty. And you guys
Right.
as fans could not want to hear that shit. But guess what? I don't get paid to write what you want. I get paid to write what I know and what I see. And so until, the Sky are cutting my check, until the WNBA is cutting my check, I'm not here to write what they want me to write.
100%.
I'm here to write what I know.
All right, I'm going to put you in the interrogation room. You ready?
Oh my God, I'm terrified.
No. First answer that comes to your mind. Ready?
Okay.
Chicago deep dish or New York thin slice?
New York thin slice, baby.
The New York subway or the Chicago line?
Oh my God, New York subway. It's like a dream. I mean,
Okay.
it flares up from time to time, but it's so easy.
True or false? An internet report said you left the Sun Times because the Caitlin Clark haters were hunting you down. True or false?
Oh my God, I had to hide. False. You think I'm
Exactly.
scared of people on the internet? Please.
How hyped right now is the city over the New York Knicks?
Oh my God, so hype. Like, it's crazy. Everywhere you go, I see Jalen Brunson jerseys everywhere I go. And I'm like, oh my God, I remember when I covered him in high school. Like, yeah, they're so stoked.
Most fun WNBA player to interview that someone would not think of. Just
Oh my
fun.
God.
Just what they're just good answers, or they're playful, or they're funny.
I'm always gonna say Courtney Williams. Like, she
Okay.
to me is just one of my favorite players. Minnesota Lynx. She was with the Sky for a year, and she just is a straight shooter. She says what she thinks, and she doesn't hold back. Natasha Cloud is another.
You can start a WNBA team with any 5 players from the inception of the league until now. Who are your 5
Stop.
players? So basically, it's your Mount Rushmore, basically, but 5.
You're joking. You're joking.
No, go ahead, shoot them.
Okay, let me just get it out the way. Caitlin Clark, Diana Taurasi, Candace Parker.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, fuck. I gotta go Sue Bird. I got to.
We're not going by
Um,
position, so it could be any position.
yeah, and then Asia Wilson.
Okay. Yeah, that's a really good 5. All right. Last one. You're doing the Bulls beat one last time.
Oh my God.
It's the Bulls beat writers of you, Casey Johnson, Will Gottlieb, Darnell,
Uh-huh.
Cody, Julia Poe, and Jamal Collier. Those are the main people. I'm not
Okay.
there. I'm off.
Okay.
You guys are all on the same flight that goes down on a deserted island.
Joe.
Who is the first eaten and who is the last survivor of that group?
Oh my God. You're crazy. You're so crazy. You're nuts. Okay, well, I'm sorry. I think you're the first eaten, and maybe
I'm
it's
not
just
there.
because.
I'm not there.
I know. I'm saying Will Gottlieb, I
Oh,
think, is the first
Gottlieb.
seat in.
Will Gottlieb. Got you.
And it's only because he's so freaking kind that I think I'm just thinking even myself,
He
I
might
would
volunteer himself.
right, but also like I'm already thinking about ways I would use his kindness against him. Like I'm
Okay.
already got that in my mind. So I love you, Will, so much, but I
First
think
seat in
Will would
Will
be the
Gottlieb.
first seat in. And then I mean, I think the egotistical thing would say the last remaining would want to say myself. And I truly do believe like I could really
Out
freaking
survive everyone.
outlast.
Yeah.
Yeah. But something about Casey really makes me think, okay, he
He's a
could do some
quiet maniac.
damage.
I don't think
Yeah,
people
like
realize he's a quiet maniac.
yeah, right. Like Casey is one of the smartest people I've ever been in the room with, and he's also like an assassin. He's he's fantastic. So something about that Casey man, I think I think he could outlast everybody. And then everybody else, Jamal, uh
Well,
Julia,
I'll eventually go
like
down.
yeah, one by one. Me and
I
Casey would pick you guys off one by one.
I will say this. One time we were goofing around and talking. We were all at a table and we were talking about ACT scores.
Uh-huh.
Oh my God, I might be part of the smartest beat in the entire the ACT scores
I
for this
don't doubt
group of
it.
people. I'm like Balboa. I'm like dumb. I'm like compared to these people, I am a rock. I mean,
Wait, do you
Will,
have them in front
KC.
of you? What are they? What are their
Oh
ACT
no, they're
scores?
all like almost like Julia. I think was like one short of being perfect. I mean,
Oh my God.
they
That
are
doesn't
like
surprise me.
they are like the smartest group of people, and I'm just like listening to their scores, and I'm like, what? I just was trying to get by that morning.
I'm a personality hire, let me tell you. I've gotten by because I'm really good at reading people and I know how to work a room. My ACT score, not the best.
Mine. So, like I said, I want to revisit this topic because I have a feeling this thing is not over. Thank you so much for last minute jumping in. You know I love you, you know how I feel about you, and I'm so
Yeah.
glad you've made this jump. I miss you, but I'm so glad you made this jump, and I know you're going to be awesome, and I know it is a continued stepping stone for you. So
I love you too, Joe. Thanks for helping make me a bit more fearless. I really
I didn't do
appreciate. Like,
anything.
I don't want to get too emotional, but you guys, you, Chris, like the sports staff, I freaking love you guys. Like, truly.
Thank you. We'll talk to you
Uh,
soon.
Okay, bye, guys.
All right. Annie's great. And again, so many things you could get into for the W. And we just scratched the surface. And look, it's not a comfortable discussion, I think, for people because there are so many layers to it. But I don't know why people are afraid to have that discussion. I think it has to be said. It has to be done. So, you know, there we go. All right, let's get to the rant. Here is my fear, and I can kind of see it coming. Arturas Karnisovas, executive for the Bulls, is going to look at this Indiana Pacers thing and go, there's a model, and we're close to it. That's a model we could chase. We can't do what Oklahoma City can do and be one of the most elite defensive teams in the history of the league. We can't do what Boston has done or had done until the Knicks, and that is shoot threes and be that accurate and also be a pretty good defensive team. We can't do what the Knicks can do, play only 7 or 8 deep in the playoffs and just have a toughness and a foxhole mentality to out physical you and out grind you and out clutch you. But the one team we can be are the Indiana Pacers because they play with high pace. Little reminder to AK. Tyrese Halliburton, 2-time NBA All-Star, 1-time All-NBA, third team, but 1-time All-NBA. You don't have that guy. Pascal Siakam, 3-time All-Star, NBA champion, All-NBA twice, second team and third team. You don't have that guy. Miles Turner, and who knows, how long he stays a Pacer, but Miles Turner, elite rim protector, 2 times led the league in block shots or up there in block shots. You don't have that guy. So while you might say, yeah, we're building this team out and we're going to depth, that's a bad path to take. I don't see. I can see them pretending that that's a model that they can follow, but you do not have the stallions, and you do not have the guys with that resume to follow that path. So if AK is going to come this fall, or whether it's over during summer league, the next time he talks to the media, and use the Pacers card, little heads up, AK, you ain't them. Let's get to the list. A lot of talk lately about what the Bulls do this summer. So these are my 5 guys. These are the 5 Bulls players that are likely or could be elsewhere next season. I'm not going to say where. I'm not going to say who. I'm not going to say necessarily how. But let's go 1 through 5. Number 1, obviously the number 1 guy that's gone is Trey Jones. That's because they don't have the money to keep him. Javon Carter is going to pick up his contract. It's almost $7 million. You just don't have the money for Trey Jones, and that's too bad because they love him. Number 2, the guy to keep an eye on, Nikola Vucevic. Vuce has been a trade rumor for years now, at least 2 years. He's been talked about by the Bulls front office with other teams. I think he is a guy that they will do everything they can to try and move. It might come February, but as of right now, which we're not even into June yet, we're in mid-May, 3rd week of May, Nikola Vucevic. Number 3, Ayo Dosunmu. Something's got to happen with these guards. Josh Giddey is not going anywhere. Josh Giddey is staying. Something has to happen with the backcourt. They almost have to make a decision between Ayo and the next guy who's at number 4, Kobe White. I don't think they're going to choose Kobe or Ayo, with all things being held equal. It would not shock me if Kobe is traded, because we've talked about it numerous times now. Kobe could be headed for a $40 million a year guy. Do they think he's a $40 million a year guy? I that is the unknown. Number 5 is kind of a wild card, and that's going to be because it would be a package. Whether it's Julian Phillips or Dalen Terry, do they throw one of those guys in to make money match, whether it's on a Vooch or whether it's on a Kobe? I just have a feeling isolated, Kobe by himself or Vooch by himself would need a throw in. So number 5 is kind of that, rookie contracts are coming up. They have to make decisions. Phillips, Dalen Terry, not that they're redundant players, but I think they would be possible throw-ins. So that's the list, 1 through 5 of possible Bulls on the move as we get into the Final Four of the playoffs. And pretty soon we're going to be talking about free agency and all that kind of fun stuff. So look, I loved having Annie on and having that conversation. I think like I said, it's a conversation that everyone should feel comfortable in partaking in, because I think the WNBA has earned that. And I think Annie's one of the smarter WNBA people. So I wanted to have her on to get involved in that conversation. And that's it. So till next week, remember, I've got next.